Hello everyone, here today I have my GTX 970. I will post a video in a few days to explain why it has two different brand fans on it, but that doesn't matter, it works. It's a bit of an old card now, it's been used a lot, hence why it's got different fans, but it's a bit of an oddball in terms of GPUs. It has 4GB of VRAM officially. Well, it does, but unofficially it has 3.5 and 0.5 at a much slower speed. I believe it's 196 gigabytes per second for the 3.5 and I think 28 gigabytes a second for the remaining 500 meg, which isn't great. Patches came out to fix this problem in certain games, but occasionally you will still get issues, and this card isn't even listed on the Nvidia website anymore. Though due to its weirdness, it can be had for a decent price second hand off eBay, though you need to just watch out a little bit because you need to be aware that it isn't a true 4GB card. It's closer to a 3GB card, so you'd probably better off buying a GTX 1060 overall. But anyway, that's not why you're here probably, to have a history lesson on the weirdness of this card. I can do a video on that another date. So today we're going to be looking at how it performs in modern games, and does that 3.5GB still cause an issue. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's start off with some 3D Mark benchmarks, and I'll chuck pass marking at the end. Here we can see a slightly mixed results. In Time Spy we're getting a lower score with the GTX 970 compared to the 1650. That's probably due to that slow RAM. Firestrike we get better performance, mainly because that needs less RAM to run. In Night Raid we score slightly better. Once again that's probably expected because it's a faster card. And in Wildlife once again we score better. In Passmark it is a much larger jump, but that's just due to how the benchmarks works, because it is a faster GPU overall. It's just got that much slower VRAM after the 3.5GB mark, which can cause frame rate issues here and there. Now let's look at something like Final Fantasy 14. Granted this is a much older game, though it's being constantly updated. This is the latest benchmark they've released. As you can see, it's getting around about the 80 FPS mark, but it does score slightly less than the GTX 1650 in the lowest settings. If you put everything up to maximum, the GTX 970 does actually perform better than the GTX 1650, though not by a massive amount. It just comes down to there's like a frame rate limit in this game that kind of like brings the score down a little bit. Moving on to Final Fantasy 15, it's a different story altogether. The GTX 970 scores better overall. This is once again on the lowest setting, so you could bump this up to around about medium probably and get a nice smooth 60 FPS. So for a game like Final Fantasy 15, the GTX 970 is perfectly playable on this card, which makes sense because it came out round about when this game came out. Now let's look at an Ubisoft game. Normally you get some different results with their games just because of how they optimize things, but the GTX 970 runs absolutely fine. This is on the lowest setting, so you're getting about the 80 FPS mark. You could run it on medium or high and you should be fine, but I run it on low to do a comparison, and as you can see it is well off the charts with all the other cards I normally test. So it's much faster than the GTX 1650, which is what you would expect for this card. It's just once again that RAM does cause issues in some games. This doesn't appear to be one of them. Here we have Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This is a bit of a difficult game to run at times, but as you can see here on the higher settings we're getting around about 43-44 FPS, which isn't bad at all if you don't mind sub 60 FPS. Some people do, some people don't. If you want that smooth 60 you can run it on medium If you want above 60, you can run it on low and you get around about 80 FPS average. So that's not bad at all, considering how old this card is. Here is DaVinci Original Sin 2, one of my favourite games of all time at the moment. So this is running on the highest setting and uncapped frame rate, and we're getting an average around about 60. It does jump up to around about 62 at times, but as you can see here, the GPU isn't maxed out, so I'm not entirely sure why it isn't going higher. Might be due to, once again, that RAM holding it back for whatever reason. But overall, runs just fine on this, and I played through this on a laptop and this card, and I had no issues at all throughout the entire game. So perfectly playable on a GTX 970. So let's look at some live service games because they're always popular. Here we have Apex Legends. This is running on the highest setting, and this is with 3GB of VRAM set, but you get the same response and frame rate with 4GB, and as you can see, it's using 4GB at the top. We're getting above 60 FPS average, which is great. I am aware that some areas of the game, such as around Hammond Labs, will cause this card to dip for whatever reason, but it's nothing major. You probably dip down to round about the high 40s. And I'm not entirely sure if it's been fixed or anything, but last time I played this, that was an issue. But overall, something like Apex Legends is perfectly playable on this card. And let's look at Fortnite then, shall we? So here we have it running at 1080p. I believe it's on high. I can't quite remember what I set it on. It might have been on epic. And as you can see, you get an average of around about 53 FPS. So you should be able to knock this down to medium, no problem, and get a smooth 60 FPS overall. And that isn't surprising with something like Fortnite because it's reasonably well optimized. And as you can see at the top, for whatever reason, it is running at 0 meg usage on the graphics card. Not entirely sure if that's an optimization on your engine or what, but more modern games, as you'll see in a minute, seem to have that issue with this card. Next up we have Mafia. This is the definitive edition. This is just a cutscene near the start of the game. It's quite good for checking because it has reasonably low frame rate overall, and when it gets hit by the card there's a bit of a dip. Once again, you have 0 megabytes being used on the VRAM. Not entirely sure what's going on over there. I believe it must be an optimization or something. But the average around about 45 FPS, and this is on, I believe, low, so it's not exactly high settings. So this card is going to struggle with this game. So not a card you should be buying if you want to play Mafia.
Well then maybe you ain't leaving at all.
Okay then. See you boys around. Let's go, Lou.
Now, a recent addition to my games that I test cards with. Here is Dirt 5. This is just the benchmark. It's in game. This is running on the highest settings, and as you can see, you're getting round about mid 40s on average, which isn't too bad. Gives you room for improvement, so you can knock a few things down to get the performance that you want. And overall, pretty good. Once again, 0 megabytes on the VRAM, so it seems to just be the more modern games that have that feature, though it doesn't seem to affect performance at all. So as you can see, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. It performs reasonably well overall. You're probably better off buying, let's say, a GTX 1060 or something like that, or even a GTX 1660 if you can get on for a decent price, because it will probably outperform this card in most instances. It's not a bad card. It's not great because of the power consumption and the heat that it generates. You probably want to try and get some bigger fans if you do get it. But it's an interesting piece of NVIDIA history, and it still performs absolutely fine in most modern games. Just don't expect that smooth 60 FPS at the highest setting. So a little bit of a short video today, so apologies for that, I'm a little short on time. But there you have it, the NVIDIA GTX 970 from Zotac. Reasonably well performing card, not the best on the market, but you can probably get it cheap because of that 3 gig weirdness that's going on. But that's all I want to say on this card today, so thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one, which should be next week if I have the time. So until then, thanks for watching and goodbye.